Why don't people just leave in the relationship instead of cheating? Story 1. They want to have their cake and eat it too. They want to cheat with other people, but they also want the benefits and convenience of being in their relationship. Story 2. Financial dependency. Children addiction. Getting away with it is the point. Cognitive dissonance. Risk aversion. Think in some cases it's the same reason people stay at jobs they hate. Change is scary. It's a lot of work, it's uncomfortable. They want to keep the situation they have, the life and comfort, and not change things up. But they want to mess around with other people for various reasons. I'm not saying I agree with it, just one of the possible reasons. Personally, I agree. If I was at a point where I cared about someone little enough to cheat, I wouldn't be with them. Story 3. Cheating is never okay, but people do it for a number of reasons. 1. They get excitement from the act of cheating. The cheating is why they do it. 2. They like their current relationship except for something they feel is missing or less than ideal, so they don't want to lose a good thing. They just want something else too. 3. They care about the person in a twisted way and do not want to hurt them, for they feel trapped by the relationship. 5. They feel pressure from societal norms or due to kids or financial repercussions of breaking it off. 6. They want a safety net. If it does not work out, he'll have something. Story 4. I've never cheated, but I am in a shitty marriage with kids, and it's more complicated than just leave. Divorcing with children puts your kids into one lower socioeconomic class from where you are now. Some people are willing to pay that price to get out of a shitty marriage, and some people aren't. Separately, if your partner treats you like, why deprive yourself of happiness on behalf of someone who won't even be nice to you? I know Reddit likes to act like cheating makes you worse than Hitler, but personally I think there are a lot worse crimes in a marriage. Story 5. The answer will vary from person to person. It's happened since the dawn of man. Some people do it maliciously, some people fall in love with someone else, some people get drunk and make a mistake. The list goes on and on. Matters of the heart aren't easy to deal with and don't involve a lot of logic. Story 6. Because they don't want to go through a divorce and pay an attorney alimony, because they don't respect the other person enough to even care that they're hurting them because they think they can get away with it. Story 7. Cheating is the tip of the iceberg. I went to therapy for it, finding out later the root issue was reactive attachment disorder. I could not physically, mentally, or emotionally commit to someone I thought would eventually leave me, so I needed a side to feel safe. No excuse, but once I found that out, I was able to work through it. Cheating is a poisoned band-aid over a wound. Story 8. I used to think cheating was strictly a low-moral, weak-willed move. My ex-wife cheated on me and I was hurt and mad, but after a few years of reflection and finding my own peace, I realized it was literally her only option to leave me. She was financially dependent on me, and we have kids together. She needed to find was missing without making the kids suffer, and without going hungry and homeless. It still blew up in her face and she faces her own struggles now, but I understand the fear and frustration that she must have felt. I understand why she left, and that it wasn't solely a reflection on me, it was a reflection on us. She didn't feel safe to address the change our relationship needed, so she found safety by leaving it. Story 9. We treat this simplistically because they're selfish, have no morals, have addiction, but the reality is there are as many reasons as there are people who cheat. One, I haven't seen mention this idea that marriage must include romantic love to be a good marriage is relatively modern. There are a lot of good reasons to be married to someone besides. People can be great friends, be raising kids together and be good co-parents, be able to provide better as a two-income household, develop dense familial and social networks, rely on each other financially, enjoy each other's company, and the attraction might not be there. As I've gotten older, I've come to appreciate that sometimes blowing up an otherwise good functional marriage just because one partner wants with someone else is not the only correct answer. Marriage is about so much more than, and in some cases getting this need met discreetly outside marriage might help maintain a desired stability in the family unit. I think of it similarly to how normal it is to get our emotional needs met outside marriage. We don't really expect marriage to meet all of our emotional needs, and people are encouraged to have other relationships to get the full range of emotional needs met. Maybe I lean philosophically more non-monogamous, but I don't quite understand why treating needs similarly automatically makes someone deplorable. I know anything that acknowledges the nuance of this stuff is a hot button for many, prepared for the downvotes. Story 10. Reddit will ask about successful marriages, relationships, and may be shocked what people in long-term relationships marriages will work through due to oaths and promises. Your grandparents choose to focus on the positives and good times, but between those points are indiscretions, poor choices, etc. at all. And there are times when it is best to move on and/or divorce. Story 11. Because it can be very difficult to leave, it can be emotionally, socially, and financially really difficult to separate from someone. It gets considerably worse if that person is narcissistic or emotionally unstable, as it is impossible to assess their reaction. When I separated from my ex-wife, she threatened to kill herself, and she also froze the bank accounts. I was completely dependent on family for 4 weeks, and not everyone has that. This also resulted in the mortgage falling behind as it wasn't paid, and the stress was awful. She also started manipulating a lot of our joint friends, claiming I had abandoned her. Honestly, I wish I had just chosen to go down the affair route and get my emotional and needs met elsewhere, rather than go through the stress of a separation. I cannot imagine what it would have been like if kids were involved, or if I didn't have a job of my own and a lot of support. Story 12. In my case, it was because my bats-hit crazy ex was threatening to harm himself every time I tried to get out of the relationship, so I cheated on him. Edit. Everyone calling me horrible can off. you don't know me or my ex on any level, you just read a 2-sentence comment I made on Reddit. As someone else already said, threatening suicide is a common manipulation tactic deranged people will use to evoke pity and attention from the party they are trying to manipulate. Story 13. I don't know, but I've hated to watch the lasting impacts it's had on some of the people I care about the most. I personally cannot remain friends with anyone who cheats. Story 14. Or a desire for intimacy might not be the sole reason they are in a relationship, but is often the sole reason for cheating. Social factors are major components of a relationship, because that is the proper way. Story 15. For me personally, it was because my now ex-husband threatened several times to kill himself if I ever leave him. Initially everything was great, but when we got married he cut off all of his friends and said he only needed me. I told him that this isn't healthy, but he didn't listen and I couldn't force him to stop. Shortly after getting married he also stopped all physical intimacy. No hugs, no kisses, no. We only had about 3 times a year, and if we did it was only for his pleasure but not mine. Whenever I tried to initiate he'd come up with excuses, laugh at me, or just say no. When he wanted to have I once told him no because I felt used for his pleasure, which led to him being so pissed off that he didn't touch me for almost a year straight. I begged him for any kind of touch, but he said no. If he needed a kiss or hug I had to do it though. No matter how I felt about it. When I begged him for couples therapy and talked about divorce 3 times, he just ignored it. When I left the town for several days to think about everything he completely ignored it, only to ask a week later if it had anything to do with him. I said yes and explained my reasoning, and he ignored it once again. We basically were roommates at some point. He also barely noticed me at all, didn't even look up from his monitor. Ultimately, I felt like I could never leave him because he would kill himself and I would be responsible for his death, felt incredibly alone and worthless, and didn't realize how far down I slipped into depression until I thought I hope my plane crashes so I can be free again. When planning a business travel I cheated. It was wrong. I do regret doing this to him, but I don't regret doing it in general. Although I would never repeat it, I used the strength gathered from this to finally end things. And he's still very much alive, but he also tells everyone that this came without any warning. Story 16. Insecurity. At least that's what I think, and it would best describe why my ex probably started. It would have made life incredibly easy if she just left or came clean about it. Instead, every time I did something nice for her after she started cheating it made her feel bad, so she wanted me to feel bad for trying to make her feel good. When you are unaware your wife is cheating and you go out of your way to make her feel special, and it's met with anger, it's a guaranteed way to unequivocally collapse your mental state to near total destruction. Story 17. Because they want to have the best of both worlds. They want to keep the benefits of exclusivity that comes with having a faithful partner, but also want the perks of being with someone else, the thrill, the sense of something new, unknown territory. They love the perks of playing both sides until it bites them in the butt. It's disgusting. Story 18. In a long-term relationships and marriages it's sometimes because people are pot committed to their relationship and leaving would be difficult, and cause lots of distress to many PPL, especially children. It means changing their entire lives that they may be happy in. They may be happy in every aspect of the relationship and life except for a specific part, like maybe a physical or part, that they realize will be the way it is with the same partner forever, and they want to get that experience without having to walk away from everything they have. Monogamy can be a hard thing over time. It's like anything else in life. Just because you love a certain thing more than anything else doesn't mean you don't want something else sometimes. Say you love ice cream so much, and you always want it, and if you had to pick a dessert for the rest of your life, that would be the easy choice. Now say you have to make a decision. You can choose ice cream to be the only dessert you're able to have for the rest of your life, or you can choose to have whatever other dessert you want but you can never have ice cream again. So you love ice cream so much you choose to have ice cream only forever, but then maybe in 5 years or 10 years you can't eat ice cream very often, and after a while you just really want to have dessert, any other dessert. You haven't had dessert in months and your sweet tooth is just aching for a taste of any dessert you can get your hands, so you end up eating an entire box of Twinks in your car behind a Wendy's after work. Or maybe a really amazing tasty dessert that is sweet and decadent, but is also very expensive, is available to all of a sudden, so you take cash out of your retirement that no one will see and you go pick up that dessert and eat it alone in a hotel room while you're on a business trip. Story 19. My friend's older brother's friend actually explained this to me about 20 years ago, and it kind of makes sense. You want to end a relationship but your partner doesn't. If you try amicably, it could go bad. They can become obsessed with you because you were good to them, all of their friends like you, their family likes you, and it's just a hard split. If you cheat on them, you're the bad guy. Now they have a reason to hate you and be done with you. I'm not saying it's valid. I'm just saying what I was told once by someone who actually bothered to explain it. Story 20. Typically because they want the person they're with around but they're bored in their relationship, or because they're young or young-minded, or because they need more attention than they get or curiosity. I think that checks most of the boxes. Story 21. A lot of it comes down to fear and confusion. Some people are scared to be alone. Even if they're not happy in the relationship, they're more afraid of the what-ifs that come with breaking up. And then there's the whole comfort zone thing. They might still care about their partner, or feel guilty, or just not want to hurt them. So instead of being honest, they end up doing something way worse. Story 22. My ex's reason was more childish. I was a virgin when I met him and he couldn't let another man touch me. Also, I acted too much like a wife and he didn't want another man having that. Story 23. So I have been cheated on by 3 people for certain in relationships that did not involve marriage. If I had to identify a common thread, it was monkey branching, a sense of independence, and a grass is greener mentality. Of course it hurts at the time, but I can't pretend that I know what it's like to be in those shoes either. In some of those cases, it was a mistake that was difficult to fess up to. In others, it was a conscious relationship move, and there was a lot less regret. One of them even told me that she had finally found her person in that whole thing. Who am I to deny anyone their happiness, especially if it didn't involve kids or shared assets? The reasons that none of them left the relationship first. Well, breakups are hard. I can tell you that I, in particular, am not a fun person with whom to break up. I'm stubborn, always see the good in things, and never weigh the consequences of preserving a dying relationship when I'm in one. For that, I can fault myself, because clinging to something broken doesn't magically repair it. Really, it's almost never something that someone aims to do. As far as I can tell, addiction to attention, lack of love. Story 24. Recently read about a couple who dated for 2 years. They broke up, she went with another guy. This didn't work out, and 2 weeks after they broke up she wanted to be back in the relationship. Better to break up than cheat. He didn't take her back. Story 25. They want to have the security of their relationship and the excitement passion of a new one. Alternatively, they don't want to have to pay their own bills. Mom cheated on dad for years. She hated my dad by then, I think, but she wanted his paycheck, wanted to be taken care of. She's relied on a man her entire life. So why would she leave my dad and have to provide for herself? Her logic, I imagine. Obviously I don't agree with it. Story 26. I asked my ex that. He said he didn't break up after he first cheated because didn't want to hurt my feelings. So he continued to cheat for another 2 years. I think the truth is, he didn't want to hurt his own feelings. He liked what he had as long as I didn't find out what he was doing. He also told me he realizes what he did, and that he plans to tell the other girl the truth. Spoiler alert, he didn't. Story 27. A lot of PPL don't usually leave their current GF until they have someone else in line. That's where the cheating comes in. Once they can confirm in their mind that the new person is the better option, they'll finally leave the relationship. Story 28. As a non-cheater, I can only assume that they actually don't want to leave the relationship. I can imagine people liking their partner, wanting to keep being with them, but also wanting to fool around for a variety of reasons. I don't think it's ever as simple as this new person better than current person. Story 29. For some ID but they aren't sure about the relationship and the cheat is basically on their way out anyway. Otherwise I don't get it. If you're in a happy and healthy relationship, and cheat, you're just a human being. Story 30. Because they get one thing at home, but something is missing, they get that elsewhere. Not always. Mental stimulation. The old girlfriend-boyfriend puppy love, later to remember with a weird combination of fondness and regret. Story 31. You can be in love with somebody without finding them fulfilling. So then your options are 1. Do without. 2. Have a really difficult, uncomfortable, potentially disastrous conversation. 3. Cheat. What's the average person going to choose? I'm not defending cheaters here. Options 1 and 2 are always better than option 3. But option 3 is way easier. Story 32. I think a lot of couples struggle separating nowadays when they have kids involved. Financial dependency is no joke and divorce is unaffordable. I think that's why some marriages open up, but that's with 2 consenting adults. Without that consent, well, we have cheating. Story 33. I know 3 people that I know have cheated in relationships. Probably more that I don't know about. One of them was a girl who had experienced a lot of abuse and bullying in her life, and she had really low self-worth. She cheated a lot. For her, it was how she ended the relationship. In her mind, the best way to end the relationship was to do something that would make the partner not want to be with her anymore. Second is a guy who was in love with his girlfriend. He had a female friend who came to him seeking comfort after a breakup. In his words, she kept pushing and pushing until he gave in. He immediately admitted what he did, took responsibility, and his girlfriend left him. He knows he stuffed up and he has never tried to excuse it or blame anyone else. Third was a girl who married a guy 30 years older than her. He wasn't rich or anything. She just had major daddy issues, and would have married anyone at the time as she desperately wanted a family. Turns out Head had a vasectomy a number of years back and didn't tell her. She found out, got pissed, slept with someone else, not condoning or excusing any of them, but those are the reasons I have heard from people I know. Story 34. Because they are selfish, lying, manipulative, cowardly cunts. Their needs are more important than everyone else around them. They do not care about other people despite their bullshit lies they tell themselves. They can claim to still be a good spouse or parent despise being and absolute, but they are not. Instead of taking accountability, they always shift blame. There doesn't work. Their spouse want them. They have needs not being met. Boo-hoo. They massive dog, because they like the comfort their partner is providing, a safety net of some sort. Story 35. Simple. The stakes is the only way they feel good. People want things that are out of reach as well. If they break up, then they would have to consider their cheating mate as just another guy they like, giving him expectations and the possibility of letting them down. Some PPL not attracted commitment when they could have both. Story 36. The fear of missing out. Loving the chase rather than the person, feeling and I can get that person, etc. Or also this guy is very good at one thing but another guy better at different thing. Story 37. Unsure of the answer, but hey, I had a neat relationship for 4 years and the one I was dating then decided to cheat on me when I was working hard to get in a good college. Story 38, kinda how most people like a job lined up before quitting their current job. Some people can't stand being single and have the need to always be with someone. Story 39, the safety and security. Usually, most people who are caught cheating were sloppy about it. Subconsciously they didn't want to do it and wanted to be caught. On some level they wanted to be wanted and loved again by their partners. Even if it's hurt and pain, they're still showing they care deeply. The death of a relationship comes in the forms of apathy and indifference. Story 40, there are multiple reasons. Some people don't want to leave, they are fine. They just want to have casual with others. Other people want to leave but are unsure if they really want to or are afraid to, because they don't want to be alone and thus use the new partner as a crutch to get out of the relationship. It's not necessarily nice with the new partner either, especially when they fall in love. Take it seriously. Story 41, because people are possessions to them. They want you like they want a flat screen on their wall. You'd think they'd be happy with having an 80 upstairs. But of course, well, watch some games on the 55 downstairs. Story 42, because sometimes people, male or female, at times regret the path they chose and desire to view the road not taken. Not saying it's right, of course. Story 43, I have some bad news for you. You may not be aware, but some people are shocking, I know, but true. Well, forewarned is forearmed, as they say. Best of luck dealing with them in the future. Story 44, I've asked this same question to myself multiple times. When there was a hint of connection with another woman, I would take a step back and make sure I didn't cross the line. Meanwhile, my ex crossed that line a couple times in our marriage, then told others how I was the reason for the divorce. Lost a lot of friends, but 7 years later, the truth came out. Why did she choose to cheat? Although one thing that sticks out was how she laughed at ads that tried to recruit people to the military. BC, it would appeal to people who had values like commitment, integrity, honor, etc. I always found it weird she laughed at it. Makes more sense now. Story 45, because is being withheld, or maybe it's better to say, one party has a much lower drive for extended period months, but it's not enough a reason to end the relationship. Marriage, because everything else is good: kids, caring partner and supportive partner, etc. Story 46, kids. All these people that think there is like this wild thrill or people want all the benefits are clueless. Are there situations where they might be true? Yes, a majority of the time that won't be the case. Story 47, easier. They think they are smarter than they really are, and they can't get caught. They like the thrill of doing something they know is wrong. They love the attention. They are sociopath. Story 48, people seem to forget how complicated relationships can be. Sometimes people can't or don't break up even when they want to, or things aren't good but their desires to break up still fester. Eventually, that can come to a head in the heat of a moment, and can happen, especially if you add alcohol or other sex-altering drugs into the mix. If someone cheats because they've been Stockholm syndromed into staying in an incredibly toxic abusive relationship and finally meet someone in the spur of a moment, probably while under some form of narcotics LMAO, who treats them like an actual human being, are we really going to blame the cheater in that situation at least more than the toxic manipulative? It'll save you the trouble. You're wrong if you do. Story 49, I was tempted to cheat once. No follow through. Only because I was so much in love with my partner, but our intimate life was beyond repair. After more than a year of feeling so rejected and alone, my mind started to wander to past partners, people who did actually accept me. Downloaded an app, got some likes. It was nice to feel wanted in that small aspect, even though it never went past that. Eventually I did end up breaking off the relationship because it was all just too much. I can totally understand though, how someone who is otherwise happy in their relationship would want to turn to someone else less painful for comfort. Story 50, because they are under-coded programs, there is no way they are real people, as real people are sentient enough to know the difference between right and wrong. Story 51, same reason you don't leave your job before finding a new one. To not end up with nothing. It sucks, but some people get in a relationship for safety and perks, not for the relationship. Story 52, because it would mean giving up the lifestyle where they are taken care of like they are living at their mother's, cooking for them, cleaning up after them, taking care of their children. Some one-night stand isn't going to take on any of those responsibilities, but if they are found out, it's why they try so hard to keep it a secret. Have their cake and eat it too. Story 53, for me it was a mix of desperation for approval, people-pleasing, and avoidance of conflict. Gonna preface this by saying I was a teenager when this happened, and have not cheated since this. I was with a boy who just did not give me the attention, affection that I needed, which was not his fault, and I did not communicate that need to him because I hated conflict of any kind. My ex, however, was desperate to me. He wouldn't respect my no, and I would end up going with it both to make him happy and because I found it hot that he wanted me so bad he kept pushing. Yeah, it didn't end well, but I certainly grew as a person because of it. Story 54, breaking up is hard. It's messy, emotional, often involves painful conversations, and means facing the unknown. Some people would rather sneak around and risk a massive explosion later than initiate a difficult conversation now. They're scared of hurting their partner, scared of being alone, scared of the upheaval. Story 55, I don't know, I've never been in a relationship, but I'd never cheat if I ever do. Like, I managed to get this far and am no longer single. That probably took a lot of work. No way I'm risking losing all that. Story 56, I'm not proud of this, but here's my honesty. I was beaten so down to the ground. I was told no one else would ever want me. I had attempted to break up with him for what seemed like every 2 weeks and I felt like he wouldn't let me. Things were getting physical. I felt like I had no options. I needed to figure out how to get out but felt like I couldn't without him threatening me with his own self-harm. I was extremely codependent, terrified and easily manipulated. Someone else wanted me and was kind to me and helped talk me through. I snuck off every second I could. I don't regret it. I wish I had been different and more healed so it never has to happen, but I don't regret it. This man healed me and made me realize I could be okay. I have been with my boyfriend and we have been together happily for 6 years. We would like to get married when we both feel a little more financially stable. I thank God every day for him. Story 57. Lack of impulse control. Craving the novelty of frivolous relationships. Lack of intimacy or fear of intimacy. Thrill-seeking knowing that what they are doing is bad so it is more exciting. Checking if the grass is greener, etc. Could be anything depending on the person and their mental dispositions. Story 58. Based on what my ex's best friend at the time told me, there was a great sense of excitement in cheating. She had other friends plus a cousin encouraging and supporting her decisions. She wanted more passion and felt that the depression that she diagnosed I suffered from was neglected by me and I wasn't going to do anything to address it. Me having depression was news to me. Once things got real where I learned what was going on and our oldest was figuring things out, my ex ended up moving out. At that point in time she was now very scared, or so I was told. The kids have stayed with me and sometimes talk like she's not stable. To more specifically answer the question, though I'd say many times it starts with pain, loneliness, along with a sense of hopelessness. I was unaware of the loneliness and haplessness at the time. Loneliness comes in many forms, but knew she had some childhood trauma, and some of that re-enter her life about that time. She complained about a lot of things yet seemed to never try to address anything. Basically, I think the excitement of cheating masked the pain, but then as things unraveled, reality hit her in the face. So there you have it. In some cases it masks the real pain and problems while hoping things somehow improve. Some of that literally just came out as I wrote this. No idea if I'm right, but it feels right. Story 59. Every cheater will find an excuse for themselves to get away guilt-free, and every victim will find a reason to justify their behavior to sleep better at night. I think it's sort of the convenience and backup thing. My ex could use me for her convenience, for her lifestyle. I could satisfy certain aspects of her life while she finds the other missing parts in someone else to fulfill. I think it's an insecurity within themselves and wanting attention. Regardless, I pity them, especially those who does it maliciously, because it's become a thrill and a high they won't forget. Story 60. Women. She has a perfectly fine life but isn't attracted and respect her partner and is looking for passion romance. Most women who cheat are looking to leave though. Men, they probably still love their partner and value their relationship, but cheated because they were presented with an easy opportunity for. Both divorce is messy and have kids so they don't to split the household. Story 61. A variety of reasons. Don't want to be alone, can't face reality, can't face consequences. People also cheat for a variety of reasons as well. Doesn't justify it. Story 62. Because of the attachment. The longer you get used to someone, the harder it is to see yourself with an entirely different person. Think of it this way: you've been in a long committed relationship with someone for 4 years and you both know each other very well. Now imagine having to start all over from scratch with a stranger. Nobody wants to go through that long process of having to figure someone out. Vice versa. Look into the saying, familiarity breeds contempt, could give you a better reasoning as to why roles go out of their way to be unfaithful to their partners, even the ones in long committed marriages. Story 63. Every time I tried to break up with this girl I was dating, he'd break down hysterically and would beg for me to give us a chance. This kept up for 2 years. I should have been a man and just been like, look, I'm done, non-negotiable. But eventually I met a girl I liked and had started a relationship, and then the girl found out and still didn't break up with me. It took another 4 months before she found someone and was like, okay, I don't want a romantic relationship with you. Long story short, nothing is ever simple. Life is messy and matters of the heart are crazy. Story 64. I was once the third person. I slept with someone taken. We matched on Tinder, went on a date, and it was one of the best dates you can imagine. We just clicked right away and 6 hours went by in an instant, and next thing I know is we're in her bed. I knew about 10 minutes before we slept together, but the connection was so strong that I thought I'm not gonna say no at that point. Turned out that she just missed the whole connection between two people, and he never gave her any sort of attention whatsoever, and neither of them could afford to be single, so they were forced to be with each other. After having that connection, her and now my most recent ex, I get it, it's a feeling you cannot explain. Imagine meeting someone for the first time and feeling like you've known each other your entire life. That's how strong it is. I don't condone cheating, but I understand it after that. Story 65. Because leaving requires confrontation, honesty, and courage, things not everyone's good at. Cheating, for some, feels like a shortcut to what they want without dealing with the emotional mess of ending things. It's selfish, yeah, but it's usually more about avoidance than malice. Story 66. Let me start by saying I've never cheated, but sometimes the logic is that rather than blow their entire lives up, they almost justify that this will make their current relationships better and it'll make their home life happier. It doesn't add up, but I hear this a lot. Story 67. She said, while at college I'm going to see other people but we're still together. I asked him why he stayed with her and he said, I'm scared I won't find anyone better. He would've. I wasn't invited to the wedding. Understandable tbh. Story 68. Supposedly like 50 don't cheat because of unhappiness with their relationship. Opportunism, I guess. Unfortunately, it's generally perceived that way by the person upon whom one cheats. Source: Ira Glassdad. Story 69 They are the same as people who monkey branch or they do both, and that's because they fear being truly alone unattached independent. They have a severely insecure attachment style that's deep-rooted. Never forgive them and stay away. Story 70 For most people, it's because they're confrontation avoidant, like they still feel for their current partner, they didn't want to let them down, and selfishly avoid that. Story 71 There's an element of fear of being lonely. People want leave a currently secure relationship to try and start a new one which isn't guaranteed. There can also be an element of desire versus romantic desire. Often a fetish component to this where the cheating is done to purely fulfill a desire that can't be fulfilled by their existing partner. Drastic example, but a straight married man going on Grindr looking for a top. Story 72 Some want their cake and to eat it too, want a consistent emotional and support person, but also to have whatever fun they want on the side, selfish shruff. Story 73 Because people try to avoid conflict. It's harder to tell someone you don't want to be with them anymore and then have a fight extended emotional turmoil. It's messy and complicated, easier to just cheat and deal with problems whenever they come. It's selfish and immature, but people who cheat are probably selfish and immature. Story 74 The answers here are half-baked and isolated to personal experiences. Imagine being married to someone that becomes disabled and they encourage you to find other people. You might say no for a few years. Story 75 Because they want the stability of the relationship while also getting action on the side, or they think that as long as their partner doesn't know then nobody is getting hurt, which is a very stupid way to look at it. But unfortunately many of my ex-friends and coworkers subscribe to this school of thought. Story 76 They are cowards, and they are selfish. They put their own needs above that of their partner, the person they are cheating with, and their children if they have them. They don't want anything to mess up their world, but they are very happy to with other people's lives. Selfish arseholes. Story 77 Most people are truly afraid of confrontation, or of being made to feel like a bad guy. They'd rather hide it and hope to get away with it than yell about it. Story 78 This is such an intuitively silly question. Why did you go back for that third bowl of ice cream even though it's bad for you? Don't you want good health? You do, but you want ice cream too. You sleep with someone else because you want them, and your partner too, with mindset focused more on instant gratification.